The Outlanders Journey. Tier 1, Level 2. Chapter 4. Errol, you feel wholly, existentially useless. In the evening, and on the morning before you all leave for the north, you're awoken by whispers and scuffling. You open your eyes to find Ark slipping out of his bedroll. Ernog and his younger brother are off to the side, waiting for him so that they can resume their treatment of the sick and injured. You, lacking your healing abilities, have nothing to contribute. As Ark tiptoes away, he accidentally knocks over your knapsack, and you hear the sloshing of liquid inside. You have some potions of healing. He stops, lifting the backpack upright again. "Ark," you whisper. "Sorry. Did I wake you?" "It's okay." You point at the backpack. "Do you want me to help administer some healing potions?" Ernog steps up to you. "Something wrong?" he murmurs. His towering figure still terrifies you. He always seems to be glaring, still suspicious of your intent. For a split second, you flash back to a sequence in your dream last night, where you knelt before Ernog, who brought his axe down upon your neck, and as your head dropped to the ground, you watched your body collapse onto a pile of skeletons. "We brought some potions of healing," you say. "Perhaps I can provide them to your injured?" "It's not needed," he says, and he turns to walk away. His brother shuffles along behind him. Ark sways awkwardly. His eyes dart back and forth between you and Ernog, filled with penitence. "Sorry, Ari," he whispers. "Go back to sleep, okay?" He slinks away. You lie back down. Brother Taida is finally snoring quietly next to you after a sleepless night. While treating some of the orcs yesterday, he stared in horror at the residual scars of the spider plague. You then felt him tossing and turning all night, even sitting up with a start and sobbing at some point. You've barely slept as well. The cavern is warm, and the ground is insulated with a layer of soft grass, and yet you're more terrified and paranoid than ever. Every footstep, every movement. You keep your sword tucked in your bedroll, just within reach. You wonder if High Priestess Vavina has received your letter by now. What will she think of your journey, your lack of accomplishments so far? Ernog, his brother, and Ark approach the furbolgs first. Bayron rubs his eyes and yawns, stretching his arms as he gets up. Cuddling next to him is his younger sister, and to his other side is his lumbering brother. Bayron has yet to speak with you in detail about the supposed escape plan you unwittingly agreed to. You're still not sure what he's planning, what his family needs you for, but you don't want to let them down. You wish to be a help to, at least, someone. At some point, you do drift back to sleep, and when you open your eyes again, everyone is preparing to leave. You sit up to find Ark eating a ration bar while Brother Taira continues to study his maps. Their bedrolls and supplies are all packed away. "Why didn't you wake me?" you say, clambering to your feet. A button on the bedroll snags on a loose thread in your trousers. You frantically tear yourself free. "I could have helped you pack." "You seemed tired, Sister Errol," says Brother Taida. "I thought it would be good for you to get some more sleep before we set off." Ark offers you a ration bar. "Am I just—" you sigh. What's the point? You start to fold up the bedroll, though you can feel Ark's eyes on you. You accept the bar and chew it slowly. "The orcs will be navigating the subterranean tunnels to keep from being discovered by military scouts," says Brother Taida. "They are surprisingly resourceful given their situation." He unfurls an empty sheet of parchment. "It may be useful for us to try to map out the path for our own purposes." "What purposes exactly?" asks Ark. "I believe it is still important to document our travels, should future followers ever embark on this same journey." Ark glances at you, then back at Brother Taida. "What if our map falls into the wrong hands?" I believe that the chosen and the candidate are responsible individuals. Hearing this, you can't help but picture High Priestess Vabina's evaluating eyes on you. You must prove your worth. Do you mind if I take on this task? You say, opening your palms to accept the parchment. Brother Taida smiles and hands the materials to you. Of course, Sister Errol. For the most part, the tunnel route is straightforward. You encounter a few forks, which you mark in your map as accurately as you can. Ark casts light on his shield and holds it up behind you. The air is damp with the smell of manure. Discolored water continues to drip down from the ceiling, staining the map. Several times, you nearly slip on bat guano, and you accidentally streak ink onto the parchment. You wonder how much of this will even be readable by the end. As you furiously try to rub away the stains, Brother Taida pats you on the shoulder. It's not a crucial task, Sister Errol. Any map we produce will be useful. You are making the first one for this area, so it will not be perfect. His insistence on imperfection only further frustrates you. You slip again, and this time, flecks of guano splatter onto the page. Who is he to be satisfied with imperfection? Was it not his imperfection that caused him to fail as a candidate? Was it not his imperfection, his carelessness, that led to hundreds of deaths? All you want is to be diligent and correct. If someone makes use of your map and gets lost and dies, isn't it your fault? Airy, you're tense, whispers Ark. You okay? You nod. I'm fine. I just hate how slippery it is. It's times like this that I wish I could still fly, says Ark, chuckling. He lifts his foot and shows off the caked-on manure. You know he's only trying to lighten the mood, but you wish he hadn't brought up flying. Up ahead, an orc slips and falls on her backside, causing eruptions of laughter to echo along the cavern walls. Guess it's not just us, says Ark, elbowing you. Brother Taida reaches into his backpack, pulling out a small towel. I will be right back, he says. She may need some assistance. He shuffles up, holding his arms out like he's balancing on a tightrope. I feel like both of you are trying harder than you need to, says Ark. What do you mean? You say. It's like you're both scared of getting on the orc's bad side, so you're trying to do more than you can. You know he didn't mean it like that, but you heard in his words a declaration of your status as a deadweight. Of course you can say that, Ark. You have healing and all. I mean, you have healing too, but that's not what I meant. I told you, I don't have healing. Your voice echoes, and everything goes quiet. A few heads turn around to stare at you. You put your hands on your forehead. You're on the verge of tears. Why are you like this? I thought you healed Brother Taida from the bite wound, says Ark. That wasn't me. That was Bayron. He was hiding in the brush. Oh. I don't know why. I can't do anything. That's not true, Airy. You've done so much already. Up ahead, Brother Taida offers his towel to the woman who fell. He bows his head as he extends his arms out. At first, you expect him to be thoroughly rejected, perhaps even yelled at. But you soon recognize the woman as Morn, who's been caring for the sick and guiding all of you, though begrudgingly. She hesitates for a moment before accepting. You turn back to Ark. What have I done this whole time? I don't heal. I can't talk to people without stuttering like an idiot. I can't even draw a proper map. You realize you're raising your voice yet again. Ark puts his arms around you. His brightly shining shield nearly blinds you. Airy, you're amazing. Everything you do is amazing. Without you, I don't know where I'd be anymore. Truly. He nestles his head into the crook of your neck. But I don't think you always have to be doing amazing things all the time. Sometimes it might be important to not think so hard. At the end of the day, We're here because it's not about us, right? You don't have a good response. He really is the chosen. Being a proper follower of the Everlight comes so naturally to him. All you can do is nod. He pulls the map out of your hands, slowly rolling it up and stuffing it into his pockets. If you don't want to draw the map, you don't have to. To be honest, I think it's better if only the orcs know how to navigate it. It's why we don't share any forest maps with outsiders. You don't have to do more than you need to. You nod again. All this time, you've been stuck in your own head like a selfish fool. You're no different than Brother Taida in that regard. At this point, you're probably worse. A cool mist sprays onto your face. The sound of rushing water has been growing louder and louder without you realizing it. Dura waves her arms towards the back and calls out in Orcish. Brother Taida is rushing back to you. "We've reached the Emerald Rivers," he says, essentially sliding towards you at this point. "I never thought I would see it." Ark's eyes light up as well. "I didn't think we'd reach it so quickly." He nudges you. "Aerie, let's go up and see it." You nod. You know he's just trying to come up with some way to cheer you up. You're more or less a belligerent toddler. You don't know why you're like this. Soon, you reach the river. Your foot touches solid ground. Still a bit slippery, but at least not filthy. The roar of the water strangely calms you, like it's drowning out the nagging voice in your head. Everyone stops for lunch, and the three of you form a small circle. Ark walks around and offers ration bars to the others, most of whom are too scared still to accept. Surprisingly, Baron expresses willingness to try it. He reaches into the knapsack, selecting a larger piece, and he slaps it a couple times against his palm. He takes a bite and glances for a moment at you. He thanks Ark. The cave floor is cold. Brother Taira lays down a blanket for the three of you. You peer over the edge, down into the Whitewater Rapids. Under Ark's light, you spot glimmers of green and blue sparkles in the stream bed. There's residuum deposits even in the waters here. If New Everlon discovers it, it will likely become a new mining site. You take a bite of the ration bar. It's lost all taste to you, but it fills you up and clears your mind. You've calmed significantly. You need to stop overreacting to every little thing. Brother Taida relays what happened when he gave Morn the towel, laughing to himself. "She was covered in manure, and yet I felt I was the dirty one. I suppose after a certain point, she must have found me too pathetic to refuse." "Do you think they'll ever forgive you for what happened?" asks Ark. Brother Taida shakes his head. "No normal individual would, nor should they. I cannot fault them for deeply loving their own friends and family, which I took from them." "What will you do once we bring them to the forest?" Brother Taida sighs. "Sister Ethel. She wishes to move one day to Harrington. She no longer wants to be a part of this conflict. But I hope to convince Ellie to at least reserve some land for the orcs so that they do not have to continue this war. Perhaps I can persuade her to stay." He shifts nervously, massaging the back of his neck. "I have also taken an interest in the Everlight followers of Liane. I know High Priestess Vavina does not think well of them, but I wish to speak to them myself." "There are Everlight followers there, too?" asks Ark. You nod. "They've sent a few letters to our temple before, but that's all I know." "Unfortunately, Sister Ethel is also uninterested in visiting Liane," says Brother Taida. At this point, you decide to broach the question. "Are you two married?" you ask. His mouth hangs open for a moment. Then he sighs and shakes his head. "I did a poor job of hiding our relationship," he chuckles. "We are engaged, and we initially hoped to get married in the 3rd month. That was before we got involved in the war. I'm not sure if the prospect of marrying me still appeals to her. When I spoke to her, She talked a lot about how worried she is for you, says Ark. It's clear that she still loves you. Brother Tida laughs to himself, putting his hand over his mouth. Ernog's brother and Bella are happily scampering after each other, the direwolves barking and chasing behind. Bella tags him, and he groans in defeat. He begins counting to 10 as Bella rushes away. He speeds up his counting towards the end, and Bella shouts, "Cheater!" But he has already started chasing after her, and she shrieks as she bolts off. They keep a safe distance from the ledge, but you decide to watch them just to make sure. They seem like such joyful children, making the best of this horrible situation. You rarely had the opportunity to play with someone your own age. You met Ark when you were already an adult, your first and only friend outside the temple. You're glad he's here with you. You observe the back and forth game, a smile creeping up on your face. Ernog's brother catches up to Bella and tags her rather forcefully on the shoulder. She loudly shouts, "Ow!" And you glimpse, in the briefest of instances, a shift in her appearance. A tiny blip in which her furbolg face momentarily disappears, leaving behind a vaguely elven visage. You blink, and she's back to her furbolg form. You rub your eyes, and you can't see it anymore. Elder Lasha shouts at Ernog's brother to stop running around. That's right, Mok is his name. Ernog, who's sitting with Dura, some of the injured orcs, and the other furbolgs, calls him over. Bella squeezes in between her two brothers, leaning into Bayron. You stare at her, narrowing your eyes. You were just seeing things, right? "Airy," says Ark. "Everything okay?" Oh, I just thought they were having fun running around. Ark's eyes smile back at you. "Yeah, I'm glad they're still laughing and playing." You glance at Bella once again, then Bach, who's lying down to get some sleep, then Bayron. A sudden thought crosses your mind. What if they're elves disguised as furbolgs? Then another thought comes. What if they're spies for New Everlon? You've known furbolgs to occasionally wander out of the forest in order to herd the bison, but none have ever ventured down this far before. Is the story of their capture from New Everlon believable? The more you watch Bayron speaking to the other orcs, the more elf-like his mannerisms seem. Why did he make a deal with you specifically? Who are these people? Ark and Brother Tida continue their pleasant conversation, inquiring into Brother Tida's wedding plans in Sister Ethel's hometown. You try to listen, but your mind keeps wandering back to that intrusive idea. There's no way, right? This is ludicrous. You're overreacting once more. You watch the furbolgs from a distance. For now, you'll keep this to yourself. A few days go by. Ark turned out to be right. Once you all reached the river, there wasn't much need to map out the route, as you only needed to follow the river flow. You've been going north to northeast for the most part. According to Ernog, the tunnels will soon rise back up to the surface, and everyone will be traveling through the plains. You, Ark, and Brother Tida have shifted towards the back of the pack. You haven't told anyone what you saw yet, because surely you're only seeing things out of your own paranoia. If you're wrong, you're villainizing an innocent family who are simply trying to go home. But what if you're right? The longer your journey goes on, though, the less sure you are of yourself. Their mannerisms are a bit strange, but you come to find it's only Bayron who acts unusual, which can be explained away by the fact that he had to live with the elves for years. It's likely he had to pick up on elven culture and slang as a means of survival, taking up a responsibility that his younger siblings didn't have to. Everything's fine, you say to yourself over and over. You're overthinking again. After a couple more days of smooth journeying, you spot a light ahead, marking the end of the tunnel. You'll finally be above ground. Maybe with sunlight and fresh air, you won't be confined to these strange thoughts. There's a sense of hope and relief amongst everyone. You've been traveling for about 4 days, which means it'll only be about 6 more days when you reach the Western INA. You've trekked through the plains for far longer than 6 days at this point. This will be nothing. Soon, all of these people will have a safe place to stay. Another hour passes, and you can see the exit now. Familiar golden grasses and a blue, cloudless sky. A frigid gust of wind rushes in, chilling your face. Winter is coming soon, but you'll be in the forest by then. You shiver. You hug your arms as you continue on. It's cold already, but it's not yet unbearable. You'll all make it soon. The group ahead stops abruptly, so much so that you nearly crash into Brother Taira a few feet ahead. You notice Dura in the front raise her arms. She grabs Mok and shoves him back. The direwolf's ears are raised, their tails tucked between their legs. They crouch down low, as if ready to pounce. The hunters in the front of the pack immediately reach for their weapons. "What's going on?" says Ark. "I don't know," you say. You also instinctively reach for your weapon. You wonder if there are wild animals nearby. Behind you, you hear Ernog's voice. "Will you carry Alog for me?" You turn to see Bok and Ernog switch places. Baron takes Bella by the hand, pushing her behind him. His shoulders are tense, but he seems confused as well. His eyes meet yours for a moment. Ernog grabs his axe and runs up to the front. He looks over his shoulder. "The river," he says. "Jump into the river for safety if it comes to this point." The river? Jumping into the river is a drop of several dozen feet. The water is likely dangerously, fatally cold. Your heart begins to race. What are they seeing that you're not? "Brother Ark? Sister Errol?" You hear Brother Taida whisper. "I'll go see what's happening." "Wait," you say, snapping yourself back. "I'll come with you." Ark nods, ready to follow suit. The three of you sneak up behind Ernog, weaving between the orcs. He glances back at you, narrowing his eyes, but he doesn't say anything. Once you reach the front of the pack, you peer through the mouth of the cave. You see miles of grassland rustling with the wind, going slightly uphill. There are no wild animals out here that you can immediately spot. The direwolves, however, are growling with this low, threatened rumble, and Dura and the other hunters all have their spears and axes prepared. Ernog whispers to Dura in Orcish. And then, before you see it with your eyes, the hairs on your arms stand. Something far in the distance seems to shift. Another gust of wind rolls through. The grasses don't move in unison with the winds like they should. There are things in the grasses obstructing their movement. Several of them. Something shimmers under the sunlight, something metallic, and there, finally, you see one of them. A single elven head ducked low in the grasses, watching all of you, wearing the camouflaged uniform of the New Everlon military. Hundreds of them are stalking behind the grasses, waiting for you, weapons drawn already. The Furbolgs, you immediately think. They exposed your location. Ernog shoves Mok into your arms. "Take him to the river," he hisses. "Now!" An arrow whizzes past you, piercing through Ernog's shoulder. He cries out, clutching the head of the arrow. The warm blood drips down his arm. His nostrils flare, and his eyes narrow with a fury. He tears the arrow out and lets out a deafening battle cry. Dura, shouting a command in Orcish, raises her spear while the other hunters roar in response. All at once, they begin charging ahead, disappearing into the bright sunlight. "Ernog!" Mok squirms in your grasp, but you manage to hold him tight. One of the remaining orcs screams out to the back of the group, and instantly there is panic. A chaotic frenzy as bodies begin to knock and shove against one another, rushing deeper into the cave. Some stay behind, furiously dragging the sick and elderly along. Another arrow shoots out, clattering against the hard ground. "Brother Taida!" you hear Ark cry, his arms grasping at air. You turn to see Brother Taida rushing after the hunters, faster than you ever seen him run before. He waves his arms, the symbol of the Everlight raised in his hand. "Stop!" he screams. "Please, Lieutenant Toldith, I beg of you, let them go. They have no interest in Ellie. They are migrating back north. They will not bother you anymore. I beg of you, please let them go." Rising out of the grasses, you recognize the wide shoulders of a commanding officer, rapier drawn. He points at Brother Taida. You shout his name, still clutching a squirming Mock. "Get to the river!" someone shouts at you, grabbing your shoulders and pulling. The commanding officer whistles, and then, soaring cleanly through the air, an arrow pierces Brother Taida's chest, then another and another. He stumbles backward, the symbol still tight in his grip. He collapses onto his back, gurgling blood from his mouth. You scream his name, and then you hear a massive explosion. Mock tears away from you, sprinting into the fray. Waves of heat rip through the air, instantly scalding your entire back. You turn and you watch as bodies erupt in flames. Hideous screeches ring out before collapsing with a thud into a pile of blackened ash. Ark lunges at you, his shield held up against the source of the heat. Your scorched arms reach for Mock, for Brother Taida. You were tasked with keeping them safe, and they'll both die under your watch. "Airy, run!" you hear Ark shout. His talons dig into your shoulder. He's pulling, but you wriggle away, and you draw your scimitar and rush out after Mock.